Well, welcome to another Purple Insider Extra. Matthew Coller, along with Sam Ekstrom here. And reminder, if you want our longer conversations, check out the Purple Insider podcast. Sam, we've got a lot to get to here from Vikings training camp, starting with Mike Zimmer and his rage for the vaccines. He, for the second straight podium press conference, talked in depth about how he wants players to get vaccinated, and he doubled down even more today, saying that he's concerned about where some of the players are getting their information against vaccinations. And so Mike Zimmer is not doubling back on his comments. He's not walking them back. He is very strongly in favor of his players getting vaccinated, and it seems to me that this is a conversation that's not going to go away, even when Kirk Cousins returns off of the COVID list.
Yeah, when your greatest fears sort of come to fruition 1 week into training camp, the head coach is not going to be happy. And the problem that, afflicted them on Saturday continues to, as they only had one real quarterback today. They did bring in Case Cookus just to have a body and give Jake Browning a brief rest. And they're bringing in more, and they're not going to have Kellen Mond for a little bit. They're not going to have Cousins for a little bit. We don't know how long. It might be a couple weeks, depending on whether they're close contact or positive. But Mike Zimmer, you said he's not doubling back. He's doubling down. I think early on in camp, he was talking about how they all have to have respect for one another, regardless of vaccination status. We didn't hear as much of that today. It was pretty staunch in one direction, encouraging everyone to get it. He's confused. He's frustrated why it's not happening. And now it's happened where, something or the team has been affected by players. And he says that he doesn't think some of the guys will ever decide to get vaccinated, and he's concerned about that. So it's not a fun topic to address, Matthew, as we've discussed, but it is something that's addressing the team or afflicting the team right now.
And I think a lot of players are having a tough time even knowing how to answer the question. What would prepare you for this question about player vaccination status? And so the answers that we got from players that we talked to today are mostly like, hey, I don't want to step in that hornet's nest. I'm just going to respect everybody's opinions on it. But that is not the tact that Mike Zimmer is taking, where he is very much saying guys should be getting vaccinated. And you have to wonder how this impacts the quarterback's relationship with the head coach, how it's impacting players inside of the locker room. There are two different sets of rules for players who are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and it seems like even players who are vaccinated, there's always the possibility of a breakthrough case that could cause an entire room, if it's not vaccinated, to have to sit like Kirk Cousins is right now. So I think that saying it's Mike Zimmer's biggest fear is absolutely correct. And on Saturday, he talked about how, what if it was a playoff game? What if it was the day before a playoff game? And the only positive spin that some players could give is, well, at least we know sort of what we'll do if this happens again. And I don't know how positive a spin that is, but this is a huge opportunity for Jake Browning. And in my opinion, Sam, the last two practices, Browning has really stepped up to the plate and done a great job. He's taking essentially all of the 11-on-11 reps he did at night practice, and then he did again for today's practice. He's been accurate. He's created a couple of big plays. He's looked in command. And I think that while Kellen Mond is out, he's taking the lead he already had as QB2, and he's extending that to the point where I would say he's locked in as the Vikings backup quarterback for this year after the way that he's stepped up to the plate in a very unusual situation.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, knew he might have to worry about Kellen Mond, didn't know he had to worry about contracting, potentially a virus from Kellen Mond, and now, Jake Browning is in the driver's seat, and he spoke at length today and did so very responsibly, talked about how he's very fond of Kirk and the mentorship he's had, but also very grateful for the opportunity that he's been given here and doesn't want to fritter it away. He's been toiling kind of below the radar for a couple of years after, a college career where he was a pretty big deal, and now he's a practice squad guy. So he's worked on his arm strength, he's worked on his mental part of the game, and he's made some really good throws. Now granted, no pads, doesn't have to worry about pressure too much. He can just sort of sidestep that. But I think the arm strength has been passable, and he's made some really accurate throws as well. So that's good to see for the Vikings, because we've talked about the scenario where Mond isn't ready and Browning has to be your backup. And I think this might reinforce that, he can do it.
Yeah, and I think he gives at least some confidence to the coaching staff that if there were a situation where he had to play, he would know what he was doing, and he could at least give them a chance to win the game, which is all you really ask for from a backup quarterback. We didn't see any evidence from Kellen Mond very early that he was locked into the offense enough or accurate in his throwing enough for them to have much confidence in him as the backup quarterback. So now Jake Browning, with these reps, is taking full advantage of that. Now on the offensive line, Rashad Hill was not practicing today, at least the 11-on-11 live reps. He was taking some individual stuff. And also Tyler Conklin was not out there today. Wyatt Davis, we suspected there was a chance he had close contact with Kellen Mond, but it turns out that was not the case. He has an injury, so he had a wrap on his foot. He was not practicing today. So to kind of recap that, you have Oli Udoh playing at the left tackle position, Dakota Dozier was at right guard, and you were down to the third left tackle. We've got some problems already here on the offensive line, Sam.
Yeah, this is problematic. And, I guess the silver lining is you weren't sure that the rookies were going to be automatically good anyway, even if it was Wyatt Davis and Christian Darrisaw. But it's looking more and more like you're going to be trusting a couple veterans, or at least one veteran, when the season starts, because we don't know when Darrisaw is going to be ready. We don't know how serious Wyatt Davis's injury is, and obviously it's going to take them some time to get comfortable and acclimated, and this is already a pretty conservative coaching staff when it comes to bringing along rookies. So the possibility that we have both veterans starting week 1 looking more and more realistic. Now, should that scare you? Yes, I mean, it should at minimum make you nervous, because these are not players that really have shown that in a large sample size they're going to be very effective. So I think what you want to see if you're a Vikings fan going forward is, at least get them both back on the field in training camp, get them in some games, and then we can maybe start to talk about them claiming those starting jobs.
Right, to have two guys that you drafted on draft night talking about, well, here's the starting offensive line now with Davis in at right guard and with Darrisaw at left tackle, and to be into training camp, and that is not even close to having happened, not the sign that Vikings fans wanted to see. Now, an interesting battle that's going on that we have not really discussed at all here in our Purple Insider Extras is the backup running back spots. We know Alexander Madison is going to be there, but we also see Amir Abdullah working in quite a bit with the first team, or at least enough to sort of catch my eye, and not really Kene Nwangwu getting a lot of those chances. I think that we're going to see Amir Abdullah on this football team, Sam. What is your opinion on that?
You just can't get rid of him. It's 4 years now on this team, and he's done very little on offense, but they really respect him as a voice. They really respect him as a special teams guy, and he does more than just kick return. He can play some gunner. He can be a speed guy on the outside. So they appreciate that part of him, and it feels like another 5 running back stable. I mean, including CJ Ham, obviously, because you're not going to cut Madison, you're not cutting Cook, you're not going to cut your 4th round pick, Nwangwu. So if you keep Abdullah and a fullback, that's 5 right there. That's a lot of running backs. I know this is a running back centric team. I personally disagree with it. I think that you can get the same as a kick return and special teamer and save a roster spot, but there's something about Abdullah that he just keeps sticking around.
2 more quick notes. We still haven't seen Dede Westbrook get on the field to do anything more than just catch punts. He was working out on the side, continuing to rehab as he comes back from a knee injury. The clock is ticking there for him to lock down that wide receiver 3 position. He'll have to get back on the field fairly soon to compete with KJ Osborne. BC Johnson is going to be out for the entire season with a torn ACL, so that's sort of consolidates who's battling for that wide receiver 3 spot, but we're not seeing Dede Westbrook in there, so KJ Osborne, Amir Smith-Marset, they're the ones, and Chad Beebe, that are battling for that spot right now. And whatever the last thing that I was going to say, I forgot, so that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll be doing these every day from Vikings training camp here on Purple Insider.